Tom Aspinall didn't just get eye-poked, he got thrown into a political firestorm that could change how the UFC treats its rising monsters forever.
He hadn't spoke to me, he hadn't given any he was already giving updates on my health and he had no idea what had gone on. Yeah, so disappointing, mate, disappointing.
I wasn't saying anything negative toward him, you know, and I think the thing's gonna be taken out of context, or he didn't see what I said, because I don't even remember what the I said, but never once did I say anything negative about him or, you know, in a derogatory way.
He walks into the cage ready to dismantle a division and walks out with people shouting he faked an injury. And that's where this story detonates, because nobody expected the backlash to unleash hell on the heavyweight landscape.
And then I realized, like, oh, people genuinely think that I faked this. People actually think that I was faking it. And then I was like, did people actually see the replay of what happened? Because that was a full-on eye poke. So then I was like, what is going on? Why are people thinking I'm faking this, like, after everything that I've been through to get there? So then I left it quite a while. I thought, right, I'm gonna get all the doctor's notes included. I've been through it for like loads and loads of tests for weeks. I've literally been in the hospital 2 or 3 times a week getting different tests. Then I come up with a doctor's report, and then people are like, oh, he's fine about it. He's doing a media tour on it. He's milking it. And I'm like, bro.
Tom goes through weeks of hospital visits, poked, prodded, x-rayed like a science experiment, and still fans are screaming faker like they didn't even watch the replay where the finger jam's deep enough to make you gag. How did we get from legit injury to witch hunt? And trust me, we are not done, because there's a twist coming up about Dana White that's gonna flip this thing on its head.
Yeah, slightly disappointing, because he hadn't spoke to me. He hadn't given any he was already giving updates on my health and he had no idea what had gone on. Yeah, so disappointing, mate, disappointing.
Then Tom hears Dana White talking about his health publicly, without a single private convo, acting like everything was sunshine and rainbows. Tom's thinking, bruh, you didn't even speak to me. He feels betrayed, blindsided, left hanging worse than a fighter with a blown ACL. And the UFC fans immediately ask the forbidden question, why did Dana talk before even checking the facts? We are not done, because there's a reveal coming about WL why Dana might not be backing Tom the way you think.
So obviously, and I know Tom said, you know, I haven't even talked to him and all that stuff, but we have people all over him right now, you know, checking up on him, making sure he's good. Does he need any help, or, you know, any specialists? Yeah, I'm no doctor. I'm just saying what I've heard. And that was in no way, you know, it wasn't said in a way that they're like, oh, what do you think? I said, I think he's fine. Or it wasn't like that. I said, I think Tom's eyes are good. He's going to take some time, heal, come back to, you know, that's all I said.
Dana fires back saying, we've got specialists checking up on him daily, non-stop like paparazzi on Conor McGregor, claiming he wasn't downplaying anything. He insists he was just repeating what he was told medically, but people heard he's fine. They heard he's milking it. They heard drama queen. Dana swears he meant nothing negative, yet the message hit the fan base like a grenade. And wait till you hear why Luke Thomas says this beef isn't about medicine, it's about something way bigger.
I wasn't saying anything negative toward him, you know, and I think the thing's gonna be taken out of context, or he didn't see what I said, because I don't even remember what the I said, but never once did I say anything negative about him or, you know, in a derogatory way. You know, I'm sure he's upset and fired up, and, you know, he'll get better and we'll get him back in there.
Dana swears he never attacked Tom's character, never tried to belittle him, and if anything, fans twisted his words. He says Tom was emotional. Tom says Dana talked too soon. Someone's wrong. Someone's right. Someone's lying, or someone's clueless. And the truth is buried in a power struggle UFC fans weren't meant to see.
I mean, what I would say is, if Aspinall was a huge driver of an audience for them, Dana would probably look past a lot of whatever else is driving the friction, right? So we probably wouldn't even be asking this question if he was drawing like enormous amounts of eyeballs. It just wouldn't even be a part of the conversation. You would be factoring in that Dana would just, you know, find a way to make good use of that, which, by the way, you would expect a promoter to do that. That would be the right thing to do. So the fact that he's not doing that kind of tells you where you're at. Now, again, I don't think that's the biggest indictment on Tom. There's just not many stars, and Tom could be big and important for the UK market, which of course I think that he is, but he just hasn't graduated. Dude, it takes a long time to become a superstar. You have to get fights like the John Jones fight. You got to kind of win them. That's the thing that elevates.
Luke Thomas steps in and drops the hammer. This isn't personal, it's business. If Aspinall was already drawing Conor-level eyeballs, the UFC would have defended him like a national treasure. It's not about injury, not about disrespect. It's about stardom. Dana protects money printers, and Tom isn't there yet. Not because he isn't great, because he hasn't been given the stage. And here's the wild part. Luke hints there might be more to this story, and what he says next literally exposes the UFC machine.
Aspinall probably has enormous superstar potential, but hasn't actualized it yet, and I think Dana's calculus probably plays into that. However, what I would say is there's got to be something more to the story. They don't like that Tom might have asked for certain things or said no to certain things. They may not like that Tom's father is his own man and that speaks his mind. I mean, there could be any number of other things that are probably also exacerbating tensions, because I seriously doubt it's strictly, I mean, you know, like on the one hand, Aspinall's not a superstar. On the other hand, he's not a nobody either.
He says Tom's father speaks his mind. Tom might have said no to certain requests, and maybe Dana doesn't like fighters who don't play the company game. That's real tension, real heat, real politics. Tom isn't a superstar yet, but he's also not some scrub. That gray zone, that middle ground, it's where careers live or die, and we still haven't reached the craziest part, because Mark Goddard jumps in and points at the real culprit behind this mess.
I think we need to look at preventative measures too, and I think a lot of that rests in the glove. It's not like a magic, there's no rocket science, it's not a magic wand. I'm not saying that, you know, it's an easier mechanic as well. If we have a difference in the glove, without getting into it here, talking about how fighters' hands are during a fight, you know, in a natural C, you know, closed. Obviously, they still have to be able to open their hand to facilitate the grappling. But I think it's a twofold attack. One is mechanical, like I said, a change in the glove, a design to make sure that we can at least help to keep the hand in a relaxed state. Then if it's what I think then for referees, it's a much easier mechanic.
Goddard says the glove needs to change. Period. Not rocket sense. Make it curved, protect the eye, let grappling still work. Simple mechanic change, problem reduced. Yet somehow the sport still acts like it's impossible. And wait, because what he says next will spin some of you upside down.
In a fight, I've never, ever, like I said, 21 years as a ref, I've never actually, in a free-form fight when people are exchanging blows, I've never once thought that a fighter has done that intentionally to poke someone in the eye. It just doesn't. I've got news flash. It just doesn't happen like that. Unfortunately, stylistically, unfortunate, bad things happen in fights, and we're going to tackle it. That's all I can say. Please side with us.
He says in 21 years of reffing, he has never believed a fighter pokes someone intentionally. Not once. Bad timing, bad angles, bad luck. Not malicious. Fans scream dirty move, but he says that's fake outrage. Accidents happen, they always will, and the refs need tools to prevent them, not excuses to punish.
Wrestling, for example, with absolutely no glove whatsoever, we don't have a lot of eye pokes. They happen. They're not non-existent, but it's not to the point that it's a problem. Olympic judo. Judo in general doesn't have to be the Olympics, but you're allowed to touch the person's face. You're allowed to reach for the person. You're encouraged to do so, and you don't really have what you would define as a problem with eye pokes. So, but this is part of the pretend. This is all part of the pretend. We're pretending that the person poking the other person in the eyes is not trying to poke them in the eyes. We can't imagine that they would. It didn't look like they did.
Then Chael Sonnen stomps onto the stage with a flamethrower. He says wrestling and judo do hand fighting constantly, bare hands, face grabbing, and there's rarely eye pokes. Yet in MMA, we act like accidental pokes are some mystical hurricane nobody could ever stop. Chael says we pretend fighters aren't poking people, and pretend the glove is the excuse, and pretend the rulebook matters, and what he drops next is nuclear.
We've got the 3 big rules. We call them the big 3 because they're the only ones that were around in yesterday and they're allowed today. Don't bite him. Don't kick the son of a bitch when he's down, and don't touch his eyes. Any one of those 3 has got to, if you want it to stop. And by the way, you don't need to change the gloves. Like, this is a cop-out. This is a massive cop-out. If you start disqualifying athletes for any one of those 3, you will never see any of those 3 again. You can change the glove, you can chop their fingers off, or you can just hold them accountable when they do it. And that seems to be the one big idea that nobody has yet had.
He says we already have rules, no biting, no eye poking, no illegal kicks. If fighters got DQ'd the second they poked someone, the poke epidemic would vanish overnight. We don't need glove changes. We need ref enforcement, but that would require the UFC to punish stars, and that ain't happening.
Obviously, Tom's the one living through this. Tom's the one that's getting absolutely slaughtered online, and Tom's the one 6 weeks later still having to go to the doctor and still can't train and do any kind of combat. So he's the man that's living with this, okay? So you understand, you kind of will get emotional. You will be pissed off, and you will think that Cyril Gane was doing that on purpose. I still don't, okay? I don't think Cyril Gane did that on purpose. What you want to do is crack someone in the face, and when the hands are out, when you go to grab, if someone comes in to take you down or whatever, sometimes that happens. That's why this whole rule of the fingers being up, not allowed there, but they're allowed there, is stupid.
This is number 1.
Because what happens when someone comes forward and you go to grab them, because you can grab, you're allowed to in the rules, fingers go haywire, go into eyes. Make a fist, make a loose fist. It's not hard, that's all that's gonna happen.
Michael Bisping breaks in, saying Tom has every right to be pissed. He's the one stuck doing tests, dealing with blurred vision, missing weeks of training, but he doesn't think Cyril Gane did it on purpose. Stuff happens when hands are flying, and the fingers up versus fingers down rule is literally pointless. Bisping says the simple answer is teach fighters to keep a loose fist, not a claw.
Is listen to the doctors. Do not rush anything. The man's still young, he's in his prime, he's not on borrowed time, he's still got years ahead of him. Listen to the doctors, come back, whoop some ass, take the gloves off, no more Mr. Nice Guy, tell everyone to go themselves, knock some people out, and this whole escapade will be behind him. Doing interviews and showing the receipts and showing the doctor's appointments and all the rest of it, I don't think that's the way forward. I really don't.
Bisping says Tom should chill, heal, listen to doctors. He's young, prime years ahead. No need to become a raging villain to prove a point. But here's the line that rattles the MMA world. Chael says Tom became champion, wrecked everyone, dominated with a smile. So what does an angry Tom Aspinall look like? Nobody knows, and that's terrifying.
You know that guy that is the world champion, and before that he was the interim world champion? You know that guy that knocked out 6 men in the first round? You know that guy that Bisping was talking about, who in his entire career in the UFC has only gone to the second round once? By the way, that was against a world champion who, by the way, he ended up stopping. That guy. That guy's done all of that in a good mood. He's done all of that with a smile. He's done all of that happy. What are you gonna do with a 262-pound angry Tom Aspinall? And you can't answer that. We have to see it.
Cal says Tom destroyed everyone in good spirits. First round killers, rarely needed a second. So what the hell happens when a 262-pound monster walks into the octagon, genuinely pissed at the universe? Nobody can answer.
Couldn't see Merab losing anytime soon. Fair play.
He has had 4 fights.
Fair play, Merab has had 4 fights. I'd be interested in a trilogy. I definitely want to see a trilogy of that.
Now the chaos shifts. UFC 323 erupts. Khamzat Chimaev shows shocking sportsmanship, congratulating Petr Yan and wishing Merab a fast recovery. Rare calm from a walking war machine. Even Mokaev praises Merab's insane 4-fight championship streak in a single year, 5-round wars one after another. That's savage stamina.
I wouldn't say he didn't at all go to the body, like with his hands like he normally does. And we really feel like that could have probably been a difference maker. Kind of like when the first fight, Yan kept attacking the calf, and then Merab started kicking his leg back, and eventually he hurt him, had him forced to switch into the southpaw stance. This time, Yan was a lot more comfortable in the southpaw stance because he was having a lot more success with that left body kick. And yeah, just a couple of technical things we were doing wrong. I think once we look at it and evaluate it together, we'll all kind of see just the same thing and be able to make those adjustments relatively quick. And just kind of do some fight walkthroughs, some fight simulations. And I think that's going to be the difference maker to us making adjustments to his adjustments. And I find it hard to believe that version of Merab was the best version.
Aspinall reacts saying Merab's too good to count out, wants a trilogy, believes this story isn't finished. Meanwhile, Aljo Sterling points out Merab didn't work the body like usual. Jan looked sharper in southpaw. The left kick was money, easy fixes. He believes the rematch isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Lerone Murphy rewatches the fight twice, calls it spectacular, praises Jan's takedown defense. Fighters, analysts, fans, all buzzing. Jan post history is made, thanking his team, dedicating the belt to his family, saying everything is finally in its right place. The division flips upside down, and the internet catches fire. From Aspinall's injury chaos to Yan's comeback crowning, the UFC world just got detonated from 2 different directions. And here's the insane part, the next major twist is already brewing behind the scenes. And the second it leaks, we'll know exactly who the UFC plans to push and who they're ready to sacrifice.